Okay, okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to those of you who had joined a bit early and have waited. We do appreciate your time. I think the issue was that the clocks have just changed here in the UK, so perhaps some of the invitations, the timing wasn't quite clear. But anyway, thank you very much for being here and welcome. Today's session is one of the Melanin Rich Bootcamp sessions, which is looking at operations and supply chain management. And depending on how long you've been in business for, I'm sure you all already recognize the fact that having all of your suppliers understood, having your processes in place is fundamental to being able to run your business effectively and with what's the word and actually fulfill the promises that you have given to your customers. The other impact it has, obviously, is on the money side of things. So today we've got a specialist, Miss Sade Fagola, who has decades of experience in operations and supply chain management, who has joined us to share her experience with us and help us to think through what it is we need to do in our businesses in order to make sure that we have the right things in place so that we are as effective and efficient as possible and we are not wasting money by leaving stuff in our supply chain unnecessarily. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Miss Sade Fagula. Thank you. You are on mute.
I was muted. Apologies. Okay, thank you, Ola. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining me today. I am Sharifa Bola, as introduced by Ola, and I'm a supply chain professional. I have 20 years experience or over 20 years experience. And for the past 15 years, I have actually helped businesses from startups to multinational turn chaos into efficiency. Operations is actually one of the fundamental practices for a business. And today we will be looking at the marriage between operations and supply chain, or OSCM in abbreviation, which are the come together to form the invisible engine business that powers every successful business. So whether you are in manufacturing or you are service-based, delivering IT solutions, or you are a small retail business selling food stuff, or you have a small coffee shop, your OSCM determines if you're going to thrive or barely succeed. So just for everybody to know, this session is going to take us about an hour. It's going to include some polls, and please hold on to your questions till the end of the session. So without further ado, let's dive into today's discussion and optimize for excellence together. So defining OSCM, I know in my introduction, I gave you an abbreviation. OSCM, simply put, is the marriage between operations and supply chain management. So starting with operations management, let's look at the basics, but keeping it real. Operations management is the administration of business practices to achieve your highest efficiency within an organization. In simple English, it is the how of your business. It is how you are able to turn resources into inputs and into outputs. It is your factory floor. It is your call center script. It is, if you're an IT company, it is your app deployment pipeline. So as you can see, I've mentioned 3 different types of businesses here, and they all have an operations management background. Next, you have supply chain, and that is the yin to what I would call operations yang. And it focuses on managing the flow of goods, information, and money associated with a product or a service. So basically, it is the who we're working with. It is the when are we delivering the item or the service, and it is to the where who is our final consumer? So who supplies your raw materials? When are they arriving and where are they going next? This is basically what supply chain coordinates, which is a pure movement of resources made up of information, raw materials, and also information, raw materials, and also finances. Thank you. I'm in presentation. Sorry, my kids just came back from school, so please just allow us. So OSCM basically is a marriage of these two concepts, operations management and supply chain management, and it forms a seamless journey from conceptualization of an idea to how it gets to the final consumer. Using Apple as an example, we all know Apple, the global telecoms giant. Their OSCM integrates microchip design, and that forms their operations management with Foxconn assembly, which is where they put together the product. And then global logistics supports the delivery from their factory to the final consumer, which is supply chain, to deliver an iPhone in your hand within days of launch. This is the marriage between operations and supply chain management, just putting it in an example. So in summary, it ensures the integration of your operations with the sourcing and the movement and financing of your operations from concept to, and of course, movement from concept to consumption. Now, what is the strategic importance of OSCM and why should you care? Now, OSCM is no longer just a back office function. Today, it is a strategic weapon. And there I've listed here universal benefits across business types, regardless of your industry or size. These are the benefits of OSCM on your business, starting with cost reduction. So what is cost reduction? Basically, by optimizing processes and effectively managing your resources, OSCM can minimize waste and reduce operational expenses, improving your overall profitability. I'll give you an example of this in motion. Toyota has saved over $10 billion in a decade using a methodology called lean practices in OSCM. This is followed by quality improvement as the second benefit. Quality improvement is basically the effective operations and supply chain practices that ensure consistent quality, product and service quality. So quality is not left to just product alone. Quality also applies to service as well, leading to enhanced customer satisfaction and loyalty. So basically, this is what distinguishes competitors. It's the quality, it's one of the, distinguishing factors, but it's a major distinguishing factor because it directly influences your customer satisfaction and loyalty, which in turn improves your profitability. Again, this in motion, Six Sigma is a global quality methodology that guarantees almost 100% precision in total quality management. And Motorola has been able to effectively or beautifully adopt this practice to reduce their quality defects by 99.9%, which is an almost perfect score, meaning that Motorola is able to churn out almost perfect products at every time simply by leveraging on Six Sigma. Increased revenue. Efficient OSCM guarantees product availability, timely delivery, and superior customer services, which collectively contributes to higher sales and revenue generation. I'll give you another example of how this is properly used by organizations. So Amazon, for instance, has been able to guarantee a 1-hour delivery in some of their cities. And by doing this, they were able to drive their Prime memberships up by at least 40%, increasing their revenue and also becoming a competitive advantage. Speaking of competitive advantage, businesses with robust OSCM capabilities can respond more quickly to market changes. So they become more agile and they are able to innovate efficiently and build resilient supply chains. So basically, if you are able to define something that you do really well, better than your competitor, it distinguishes you and it can become a competitive advantage. So apart from Amazon, another example of this in motion is Zara, the global. Sorry, bear with me a second, please. Sorry, apologies for that distraction. So I was saying, the competitive advantage Zara has is they're able to churn an item of clothing from design, which is conceptualization, to the final consumer at the store within 2 weeks, compared to their nearest competitor, which is H&M, who has a cycle time of 3 months. You can see there is that gap of 2.5 months can make or break competition or market share in the clothing or the fashion industry. It makes a big difference. So that is Zara's competitive advantage, which is their ability to be able to churn out design to store within 2 weeks compared to their competitor who does it at a longer lead time. So what is the universal truth here? Whether you are a startup or a 5-person business or a 1,000-person conglomerate, you can actually scale your operations if you have a strong OSCM foundation. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so what are the core operational pillars in operations? Operational excellence rests on 3 pillars, and I will walk you through each and every one of them with an example to support it. So starting with process design, by meticulously structuring how your work is performed, you can achieve your desired outcome efficiently. And this includes defining and documenting your workflows, identifying your necessary resources. Who are the people? What are they supposed to do? You put in timelines, you put in approval matrices, and then you establish clear steps for every task, which is basically your standard operating procedure. A lot of people usually think processes are, some businesses feel that having processes can be counterproductive, but I believe that processes, based on experience, basically form the blueprint of how your operations will run. And if you do not document how you work, how are you able to identify inefficiencies along the way? How are you able to assign or allocate resources? And like I said, the most important one is how are you able to improve on how you currently do things and ensure continuity. So don't never look at processes as, oh no, they can slow things down and all that. No, what they actually do is give you visibility of how you work. And that way you can either improve it or you can um definitely improve it more than anything else. So, giving you an example of how this works, McDonald's, which is one of the world's biggest fast food joints, runs a unique kitchen layout, which they designed as a racetrack. Their selling point or their value proposition is to be able to churn out your order in less than 2 minutes after receiving it. And they are able to achieve this by running an assembly line sort of kitchen where the all the processes are defined, all the activities are defined, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and it's like a relay race where as you're completing one activity you move on to the next. And this has been so effective that they've been able to churn out their orders in less than 2 minutes. The next is quality management, which is focusing on which is ensuring that products and services consistently meet the standards, their quality standards, and of course customer expectation, influencing, ensuring fitness for purpose. So basically, what we're saying is if you're able to come up with products that come as close as possible to zero defects, that is almost achieving perfection. And this in turn, it will influence your customer experience, customer satisfaction, and eventually your profitability. For example, Tesla's Geiger casting process reduces 70 parts to one, but it's also ensures zero defect quality checks. And last but not the least, you have capacity planning. And this is basically taking advantage of data and information and being able to use this information to meet changing demands in your customer, changing requests in your customer demands for products or services. So if um, we have tools like predictive analysis now, analytics, sorry, which is a product of technology. By using predictive analytics, you have access to data and you can use this data to make informed real-time decisions that can boost your business operations and also help you scale up for the future. So for instance, Netflix uses predictive analysis to scale servers before a new season drops, ensuring zero downtime in their streaming. All these pillars are not as isolated. They are all interrelated and interlocked, and a weak link in one of the pillars affects all three. So let us move on and see how this works. Now, based on everybody's experience here, because I know we have a different mix of businesses, what it has been your biggest day-to-day operational challenge? So let's make this interactive. We'll take a poll question. This is a poll question. Can you look at the four options here? Process bottlenecks, managing costs, quality control and rework, and last but not the least, employee productivity, which is something I believe a lot of businesses tend to overlook. Which of these four challenges are your biggest operational challenge? So I'll just pause for us to take both. So Ola, I'm going to hand this over to you now. Can you handle the poll session of the four? What kind of feedback are we getting? Thank you.
I'll open the poll in just a second.
So how are we looking right now?
Okay, let me just start it. 1 second.
Fantastic. So of the four, what is your biggest operational challenge? Are they process bottlenecks, which is efficiency issues in the workflow and production processes? Is it managing costs, being able to get the best cost and improving your bottom line? Is it quality control and rework? Do you struggle with quality issues and standards? And most of your products have defect issues? And last but not the least, do you have a happy workforce? Are your employees efficiently managed and engaged to put their best foot forward all the time? Which of the four happen to be your biggest challenge?
Okay. We've got 3 responses so far, so I think there's a few more people left to respond.
So while we wait for the results to come in my experience, I believe that process bottlenecks seem to be a big issue. And this is simply because a lot of times we don't even use our processes as they're supposed to. I mentioned earlier that some businesses struggle with even having processes in place. They don't see the importance. And for some businesses, when they even have processes, some of them don't get audited. Some of them get audited and there are no follow-up actions to them. And process audits can even help you in making your processes more streamlined and less bureaucratic. So, and all these changes affect your output at the end of the day. So we have our results in, just as I mentioned, for me, based on experience, I'm also agreeing. We have 33% of our respondents have said that process bottlenecks form is their biggest. Oh, it's even a tie. It's a tie between process bottlenecks and, yes, quality control and rework. So we have internal processes, external. Are you working with suppliers that are giving you the best quality raw materials or services or components all the time? You can see how it makes sense that between process bottlenecks and quality, um, some of the biggest challenges faced by operations occur here. Closely followed, again, a tie by costs, managing costs and employee productivity. Fantastic. Thank you for your insights. And as we move along, we'll see which of the challenges, how we can solve your problems, and let's find out how. So tools for operational efficiency. So now that we've talked about the challenges we encounter on a day-to-day, let's look at some of the tools that can help improve efficiency on a day-to-day. And the two methodologies we'll be looking at today are the Lean principles and Six Sigma. So operational excellence hinges upon these two methodologies. So Lean principles so lean principles using a pointer is centered on the systematic elimination of wastes or muda. Now, a lot of times when people think about waste, they usually think about physical waste. However, lean principles have been able to define waste as being both tangible and intangible. And the types of waste eliminated are overproduction, excess inventory, waiting, unnecessary transport, over-processing, unnecessary movement, and of course, defects. So through lean processes, all these can be eliminated, and the goal is to end up with a smooth, value-focused flow with minimal resources. Six Sigma, on the other hand, leads to data-driven precision. I use Motorola as an example. Through its application of Six Sigma in its operations has led to a 99.9% elimination of quality or defect issues, which is an almost perfect score in quality. And you can see using Six Sigma, it will target your defect reduction, process variation reduction. So it's looking at the product, it's looking at your processes, it's looking at your quality control, and it will help you optimize your processes. Now, there is also a terminology called DMAIC or DMAIC, and it helps drive down quality issues. And it's basically quite similar. It has the same concept as Six Sigma. It uses data to improve your production cycle and to solve problems and also optimize processes. So the D is for define, and it identifies the problem. Your M measures or collects data. Your A analyzes statistics and identifies root causes. Your I will develop and implement improvement solutions to eliminate those root causes that have been eliminated. And last but not the least, you have control, which is to monitor the improved process to sustain gains. Just as I mentioned about, having processes and auditing them, it is a continuous process, of making sure that it is usable and of course inefficiencies are identified. So the bottom line is this: while DMAIC or DMIC turns problems into measurable, fixable, and sustainable improvements, your lean principles will remove your waste and speed your flow, while your Six Sigma will guarantee quality and tighten your control. Together, these two will deliver faster, cheaper, and more reliable operations and forms the foundation of competitive OSCM. Now that we've talked about operations, it's time to move into supply chain. Now, I will walk you through, give you an end-to-end view of the supply chain. So managing the supply chain involves overseeing the entire journey of a product or service from its raw material state to the final consumer. So it starts with your tier two supplier. So the illustration I have here will show us how goods and well, raw goods in this case move from backwards from the supplier, tier two supplier, to the end customer. So from a tier two supplier who probably supplies the raw materials, we have the raw materials that would move. So we have, sorry, there are several lines here. So we're looking at the yellow line. The yellow line, keeping this alive, the yellow line represents the flow of raw materials from the tier two supplier to the final consumer. So as I mentioned, raw materials move from one supplier to the other, from tier two to tier one. Tier one converts them into components. The components are sent to the manufacturer or the OEM. The OEM produces or assembles, and then they now begin the route to market journey. So from the manufacturer, it's probably imported or delivered to the distributor, who in turn moves it down to the retailer, and then the retailer would, or wholesaler, depending on what their route to market looks like, will now ensure it gets to the end user or the final consumer. So this line, the orange line, just depicts the flow of material or physical goods, and it's a forward movement. So it's moving, as you can see, from supplier, as I mentioned, to the end user. Information, on the other hand, are managed, they flow backwards. And how is this done? So I talked about data. I talked about how how businesses rely on demand forecasts or demand information or consumption information from the consumer down to planning. So it's actually a backward flow. So orders, forecast, feedback, they flow backwards. And this forms the nervous system of the supply chain. And it can also give you real-time visibility, preventing what is called the bullwhip effect. I will talk about this. I will talk more about this, which is the blue whip effect, as we progress in the presentation. Last but not the least, you've got finances. So payments flow backwards through the supply chain, creating financial connections between all entities and enabling business relationships. So payments, invoices, they flow backwards. And, as you can see, strong financial ties at every given point builds trust and fosters better, faster processes. So a key insight you need to understand is this: any disruption along this chain affects the entire supply chain. The ripple effect is general, it just goes around. So true efficiency comes from making sure that you are orchestrating all three types of resources we use in supply chain, i.e. materials, information, and finances. You cannot optimize one over the other. You have to strike a balance between being able to coordinate the movement of materials, information, and finances. And this is where the true efficiency comes from. So now that we've looked at what the key resources that make up the supply chain are, let's look at what the key activities in supply chain are made up of. Now, a lot of people tend to confuse supply chain with procurement. You hear people say things like procurement is supply chain, or you hear someone say supply chain is procurement. They're both correct. However, procurement is just one pillar of supply chain. Supply chain runs on three interconnected pillars, starting from procurement, which is the strategic sourcing of raw materials, components, or services. And it also involves vendor selection and contract management, supplier relationship management, and overall ensuring that, the services and products that have been procured are meeting the quality standards, are cost effective, and are delivered on time and in full. Then we have logistics, which is the point center. Logistics is the execution engine, and it's all about planning, transportation, warehousing, and distribution, getting the right product at the right place on time, every time, and to the end user. And last but not the least, you have inventory management, the which is basically the balancing act. And inventory management uses forecasting, reorder points, and optimization to ensure that we have enough stock, just enough stock to keep the business running, a bit of the excess for risk management if deliveries are going to be slow, avoiding stockouts and shortages, and of course, excess carrying costs. If you look at the flow beneath, this is how supply chain actually works. So it is the movement of goods, it's the sourcing of goods, it is the movement of goods and being able to plan for the next cycle of procurement based on what their inventory looks like. So how are they connected? Procurement feeds logistics. Logistics feeds inventory management. And then inventory management, because it is monitoring the level of stock or products, a sellable stock or product in the warehouse. The minute it sees the need for a replenishment, it sends a message or it connects with back to procurement to begin the procurement cycle all over again. So you can see the connectivity. That is the cycle, starting with procurement to logistics to inventory, who will now signal procurement to kickstart the cycle all over again when the stock is low. Of course, taking into consideration all the elements of all the timelines and other consideration needed for a procurement cycle time. So the bottom line is if we master these three pillars, you will be able to control your cost, your speed, your reliability, and also create a proper DNA for your competitive supply chain. Now we're going to look at the kind of challenges that affect the supply chain, looking at risks and mitigation. You can't talk about operations without looking at what can hinder your operations. And by the way, supply chains are very fragile. A little shift in either your micro or your macro environment can disrupt the entire supply chain. But this is where you need to build a resilient chain. And some of the common supply chain risks that are experienced in businesses. Sorry, can everybody mute their laptops, please? Thank you. So some of the common supply chain risks that we experience in businesses, we start with demand volatility. So I mentioned the bullwhip effect. Small changes in the supply chain, your customer demand can lead to increasingly large fluctuation further up the supply chain. And then you also have if you do not make any accommodation for disruptions, demand disruptions, then it will affect your supply. It's that simple. So the same way you are focusing on, oh, what is the customer requesting for, you must also make room for your ability to be able to support or provide or supply to meet those demands, especially if there are changes, and there are usually changes. The second common supply chain risk is supply chain disruptions. And these could be geopolitical, they could be natural, they could be pandemics. And, in recent times, we have experienced a good number of disruptions, and these are not just local disruptions, even whatever so some of the disruptions, in fact, some of the biggest disruptions we've experienced in recent times in supply chain have been from global activities. We have COVID in 2020 to 2022. It was a pandemic. We know what happened during COVID. It disrupted global supply chains were not, I don't want to use the word disrupted. I would even say wiped out, in a matter of just days. Everybody was in chaos because first of all, we had never in recent times experienced anything of this caliber or nature. And, it threw everybody into a state of confusion. But today, because of what happened in 2020, a lot of businesses are now very forward thinking and using risk management in supply chain to plan ahead and also um, just to guard against all sorts of, of disruption. So I mentioned COVID, which was a pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war, which is a geopolitical uh, event, also affected supply chains as well. You have the blockage of the Suez Canal, which was a transportation issue, and we know that the Suez Canal is a major transportation and shipping route. Same with the Red Sea. These are major shipping routes, and everything that happened in those regions affected shipping routes globally, and of course, your ability to be able to import. So these are just examples of how some disruptions, even on the global stage, can affect your own business, especially if you rely on global suppliers. And the mitigation strategies are quite simple. So for redundancy, it's important to have multiple suppliers. So you're not just relying on one supplier, no, and you don't have one single point of failure. So it's important to have multiple suppliers with the same amount of capability to ensure continuity of materials and components if one faces disruptions. The second mitigation strategy would be to enhance your visibility, real-time tracking. This is 2025. Technology has given us tools that can help with real-time tracking like RFID. You can use blockchain, track your assets in real time and be able to react faster. And then there's collaborating forecasting. Again, predictive data analytics will give you data and share data with your um, different departments and engage partners to demand uncertainty through shared planning and information sharing. So in a nutshell, people keep talking about cross-functional collaboration. What is cross-functional collaboration? It's a tool for efficiency and blah, blah, blah. Listen, cross-functional collaboration works best when you have shared data. So if you invest in tech, you can collate data. You can have a center point for data where everybody has access to it. They can update theirs as they, whatever portion is theirs. It can be done in real time. It can be updated. Discussions can be made. Decisions can be taken all at once. And of course, this information can be used for future planning. So bottom line is it's important to design out vulnerability. You can't be reactive in 2025 again. You have to be proactive and be ready to be agile, move. Don't allow the risk or the disruption to stop your operations from happening. You can actually roll with the punches and still continue to run a business, even with disruptions happening by having putting a design in place that can help you mitigate and recover faster. It's time for another poll. So let's hear your voice again. I know I've said, shared a couple of examples and I've said quite a few things, but which supply chain area is your top priority for improvement? So what I have here, I have selected 4 different areas that usually experience most of their biggest challenges. We have supplier collaboration, you've got inventory cost reduction, speed of delivery, logistics and delivery speed, and last but not the least, demand forecasting. So again, Ola, I will hand over to you and pause while we take our votes. So Ola, over to you. Hello, Ola, are you there?
Just putting the poll together. 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
Please select your choice.
Okay, so just to help everyone along, if you look at the description, just in case you are struggling to understand the definition, supplier collaboration is basically, do you struggle with improving your relationships and communication with your supplier, getting them to enhance their service delivery or product delivery and efficiency? Is that an area of a problematic area of yours, or could it be inventory cost reduction? Are you holding too much stock, and at the end of the day, it just eats into your OPEX? So coming up with the right strategies to minimize your inventory holding costs while maintaining optimal stock levels. Is this your biggest or your area for improvement, or is it logistics and delivery speed, i.e., getting improving your transportation efficiency and delivery times to enhance customer satisfaction? Or could it be demand forecast accuracy? Are you struggling with getting the right accuracy for or the right accuracy for your demand prediction? Are you measuring it? Is it up to 95% accuracy or less to optimize production and and procurement? So which of these are your biggest pain points? And it's basically for us to tailor our discussions to address your most pressing needs, either here or in the future. So your inputs or your insights will be very much appreciated. How are we looking, Ola?
The two people have responded so far. Um,
Okay.
so if anyone else would like to respond.
All right. So I think we can just move along. So what do we have as our, if you can just share the results so we can move along. Thank you very much. So based on the poll we have just had, the priority for improvements is inventory and cost reduction, which is fantastic. As we go into, there is a portion of the presentation that will talk about that and just give you a small insight on how this problem can be fixed. It is a big problem, but at the same time, the solution is actually quite simple. So as we move along, I would talk about that. So thank you very much for taking part in the poll and for your insights. All right. So I've talked about on several occasions, I mentioned technology. And yes, we need to include technology in this conversation because, like I said, it's 2025. We are living in the technology or information age. So if you're going to run a business that is competitive and effective or efficient, you must integrate technology. So it's not just optional anymore. Technology is actually oxygen to a business. And these are the three um, common sources or foundational technologies applied to operations today. And they are responsible for driving efficiency, visibility, intelligence in today's supply chain. So most common are ERP systems, which have been here for quite a long time. Enterprise Resource Planning, ERP. And ERP is the backbone of integrated operations because it provides your single source of truth. Um, it consolidates data from different business functions. So I mentioned something earlier. When you have cross-functional collaboration, you have finance, you have procurement, you have inventory, you've got the warehouse, and you've got distribution, and everybody is able to access information that is dependent on their, if they're dependent on another department for information to be able to carry out the next task, this is where that unification happens. So it provides a platform to unify information used for decision making. And it also helps to streamline processes and improve data accuracy. And all in all, it ensures better cross-functional collaboration. So in a nutshell, when everybody in all departments are looking at the same real-time data, they're able to make informed decisions faster, and alignment happens faster. So in recent times, we've started using Internet of Things. So we have devices like sensors, RFIDs, which I mentioned earlier on, enable real-time tracking. And then it also helps you monitor assets, inventory, and environmental conditions. So agriculture, for instance, in this country, wherever you have consumables or perishables, Internet of Things can help you track and even store, give you temperature controlled storage while your goods are in transit or in storage. And it also provides unprecedented visibility into operations, enabling proactive problem solving and optimized allocation. And last but not the least, we have artificial intelligence, which is becoming the rave of the moment. And it takes data and turns them into actionable foresight. So for companies that struggle, for instance, with getting data, AI is your solution because it gives you access to a world of data. So it's all for you to know where to get the data and how to make sense of it. And if you use it, it can help you identify patterns and trends. It can also help you automate complex decisions and even processes. You can actually automate processes now using AI. So for instance, if you're a small business and you can't afford an ERP system, you can actually use AI to come up with small automated solutions for either end-to-end or specific tasks in your operations. So what you have at the end of the day is a more agile and responsive operations by just leaning on these three pillars. So just to wrap it up, technology integration is a must in operations in OSCM. And these three, by the way, they're not standalone tools anymore. They actually work together. So ERP systems, in summary, they provide the data foundation. IoT, they help you feed real-time inputs. AI or ML algorithms, they help you analyze and optimize. And when all these three pillars are integrated, they create a closed loop, intelligent supply chain that senses, learns, and also adapts continually. How do you measure success in operations and supply chain? You can't improve what you don't measure. So in order for you to effectively manage and improve your operations and supply chains, you must establish clear metrics and key performance indicators, KPIs. These KPIs provide for you your quantifiable measures for performance, allowing organizations to track progress, identify areas for improvement, and of course, ensure alignment with strategic goals. So starting with operations, the most common KPIs are you've got your cycle time, defect rates, and of course your overall equipment efficiency. So process efficient metrics, your defect rates, so quality control indicators, and of course your resource utilization rates. How well are you utilizing your equipment? Your common supply chain KPIs. So you have perfect order rate, inventory turnover ratio, delivery performance on time and in full, and of course, your responsiveness, supply chain responsiveness. And then under finance, you have KPIs for cost reduction, return on investment, and of course, working capital efficiency. Are we making enough money doing it? When you have all these put together, you can, all these three, they feed your success outcomes and your process excellence. So integrating all these can help you form your success framework, and you end up having process excellence, customer satisfaction, and a higher financial performance. So a rule of thumb is this: for businesses that don't have KPIs in place, it's important to pick five, well, between 3 and 5 at least, and on a weekly basis, across the three pillars, so operations, supply chain, and finance, just take a pick, and on a weekly basis, just track it, and on a monthly basis, act on it. Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier that OSCM is applicable to different types of businesses, regardless of industry or size. So the principles provide substantial values to diverse business concepts and contexts. So for large enterprises, for instance, it would be important for you to invest in like a multi-tier supplier audit or a very strong global ERP, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Navision. It's for large enterprises, it's important for them to make that sort of investment. For SMEs, you have smaller ones like cloud-based inventory tools and also leveraging on local supplier networks. Intangible service providers, because there was a special case made for service providers. So what about service providers? If I don't have tangible goods, how does OSCM apply to me? Well, for service providers, you have your blueprints, your workforce scheduling, and service process design. How am I working? How well are we working? Where can we make improvements here and there? And of course, resource allocation. By the time you um, select which one of these OSCM that applies to your business, you'll be able to come up with, and they're basically the same principles, really. You'll be able to tailor your operations to your size and, of course, to the type of business you run. So your size doesn't limit your excellence. There are principles for every business type, regardless of industry and size, even though it's not a one size fits all, but there are principles that you can adapt to fit the type of business you run and your operations. So as we round up, let's land this plane, and the key takeaways are these. Your core principles of operations and supply chain management are vital for your organization's success. Strategic function, and for three different reasons, and it's because OSCM will always be a core strategic function for all businesses. It has a direct impact on your profitability and your market leadership. It's an efficiency driver because it can help you optimize your operations and manage your supply chain to improve your efficiency and also your customer value through streamlined processes and enhanced service delivery. And again, it is an enabler framework. So your success will depend on, again, technology, processes, and measuring your operations on a regular basis to ensure that you have the right metrics in place and you're using the right KPIs, all working together to create an agile and responsive operation. So your success, in other words, is built on your people, your process, and your technology. As a final thought, I will say this: excellence isn't a destination, it's a daily principle. And your action step to pick is select one area from the polls. Let's talk about it. I'm here to help, and I'll leave my details at the end of the presentation for any other further engagement. So thank you for your attention and your energy and your insights for today. That wraps up our journey through OSCM excellence, and we have seen how to optimize, streamline, and integrate across tools, risks, and metrics, and also business types. Please remember the three: optimize for excellence, streamline efficiency, and integrate seamlessly. So now it's your turn. What idea are you taking back, and what challenges do you want to tackle together? So the floor is open, fire away. There's time, and if we do run out of time, like I said, my details are available and we can keep the conversation going. So thank you very much, everyone. That is the end of my presentation, and we're open to questions and answer sessions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I can see lots of people applauding. Um, so great. Please tell us about what your challenges are. Ask questions, ask for elaboration, ask for examples. This is your chance now to take something valuable back to your business. So the floor is open. Alternatively, I can pick on people and just ask what has struck a chord with you in the conversation we've had so far today.
Okay. Well, I mean, even if that's not going to put them on the spot, let's go for it.
Well, we'll see how we go. Okay, I'm going to start with Kehinde. Um, if you're able to talk, Kehinde, just let us know what has been valuable for you. Okay, Kehinde doesn't seem to be on mute. Here we go.
I
Yeah.
am unmuted myself. Hi, everyone. Shade, thank you very much for this. I'm actually working on a tender. I'm in the service industry, and one of my biggest headaches is supply chain. So I'm not going to ask any question. I'm just going to ask Shade, please, if you could share, a bit of summarize your slides and share it with me. It will really help with what I'm working on right now because I'm finding a lot of difficulties in my supply chain area.
In fact, Kendi, I can even do better for you. So there are templates available as well that I can even provide for you. I know one of the biggest challenges a lot of businesses have is access to templates that can help them, again, document, measure, and keep track of what goes on. So I'll even do better for you. I will even supply templates that can help you in your planning, sourcing, and tracking as well, if that can be helpful.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Especially in the tracking area, because that's
Okay.
where, we do, well, the business that I am in has a problem in tracking.
What kind of business is this?
So I work with a company that provides catering and support service in the niche industry, in the oil and gas industry. And
Right.
yes, so it's very, very important because sometimes we tend to oversupply, undersupply.
Hmm. And I can also understand that a big focus for you guys would also be quality and speed of delivery as
Oh,
well.
definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
When the poll came up about in the supply chain, I could have ticked everything. I really could have ticked everything.
Okay. It sounds like this is a timely intervention, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
services will be required, which is exactly what this whole session is about. Please, can I ask that people put their contact information in the chat so that we make sure that we share the recording from today and the slides from today. We make sure that everybody has access to those. And of course, if you have questions, then you can put some of those in the chat as well. There's a couple of questions that have been
I
put in.
can see that. So, Keletra, how are you? Good afternoon. So, Keletra has asked a very important question, and interestingly, I actually gave an example operations or effective operations in the restaurant industry, using McDonald's as an example. So Keletra has asked, I'd like to know how to really practicalize this in the restaurant industry, as it is really important. Yes, it is really important. And I think anything that has to do with food consumption, oh my God, like you have to start thinking of everything from quality to, again, cost and timely delivery. And I can share with you case studies. McDonald's, if you even look up on what McDonald's is doing, I talked about it in the presentation. I said they're able to churn out their orders in less than 2 minutes by just making adjustments to their, not just the order processing, but their kitchen layout. They turned it into like they adopted the racetrack architecture used in Formula One, and everybody is just working in boom, boom, boom in less than like five minutes to pass, the task to the next person. So I can discuss this with you in more details. I can even share with you case studies that you can look up on, and we can take it on from there. I hope that answers your question. And then for Dr. Awofolaju, she said the synergy of the processes of procurement, logistics, and inventory management within supply chain management was quite insightful. Thank you very much, Dr. Awofolaju. I mean, I said a lot of people, I meet people and they say, oh, procurement is supply chain. And a lot of times I find myself having to educate them that it's a chain. And so procurement just forms one pillar of that chain. It's not the entire chain, it's just one of, in some supply chains, you even have up to 3, 4, 5 pillars, depending on the type of business you run. But your typical pillar is made up of those three. And I'm happy to have clarified that. Okay, Benjamin has said he joined late and would appreciate having the slides and any templates that would help, especially on the operational efficiency. So what I'm going to do here is, Ola and Melanin Rich will definitely make the slides available, but at the same time, I'm going to make my email, my work email available as well. If you are interested in receiving free templates that can help you with your planning, your tracking, I can make these readily available for you. And then if there are additional services required, then we can talk about payment. But any other thing before then, I can definitely do for free for you, because after all, what are we doing? We're spreading the gospel of supply chain. So I'm making my email address available in the chat box. Please feel free to reach out and request for templates, or if you have questions or seek clarification, or you need the slides shared, I can make that available. Ola would also do so. So thank you. Okay, Rama has said that would be done. I have shared my email address for interested people. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Great. Do we have any more questions? Or perhaps we have examples of things that we've tried in the past that haven't quite worked, or things that we've tried that are working very well. Please share, because everybody here is looking to improve their business. So you sharing, whether it is something you want to learn or something that you have learned, will help us all get the best out of this session.
Thank you, Ola. And I mean, I can also share some more examples or experience that I've had. So, in the course of the presentation, I talked about some businesses, even big businesses. I've seen multinationals not having right processes in place, but without overplugging process. I think suppliers, having access to capable suppliers, is also a big problem faced by a lot of businesses. But in the same vein, I think what has been the biggest challenge so far has been getting information on where to find these suppliers. But I've also discovered that there are businesses or companies like Dun and Bradstreet who has a software solution that has access to supplier database, and from there, and they've done the vetting of the vendors. So these are accredited or credible vendors. And from their database, you can get their business history, you can get their references, you can even have, all the necessary information you need for vendor selection is now readily available in a database, and a company like Dun and Bradstreet can provide that information to you. That can help you eliminate not having access to strong performing vendors. Risk management is also another area that I feel a lot of businesses need to do better in. Again, based on experience, I've seen businesses have a strategy without a risk management part in it, or a risk management without risk management considerations. And what happens is, no matter how perfect your plan is, once there's a disruption and you don't have a mitigating plan or a mitigating measure in place, it disrupts your entire supply chain and messes up your ability to be able to deliver to your customers. So, risk management is an area that needs a lot of I don't want to say hand holding, because it's not as difficult as people think it is. And there are different tools out there like SCORE that can help you as a supply chain professional um, go through each and every stage of your operations and identify risks while you also mitigate there as well. So I believe that risk management is also an area that we need to focus on, especially, with our economic instability and all the issues going on. So that's just another area. But enough about me. I wish out. This is it's supposed to be an interactive session. So please don't be shy. Please feel free, ask questions. There are laymen here and there are professionals here. So we're a good balance. We're not going to look down on anybody. And the whole idea is to be able to share experience. So please speak up if you have anything that you want to share or you have clarifications.
While people are thinking of their examples, one of the things that struck me is I tend to talk to companies around things like finance a lot. And I remember once going to a client's site. She was looking for additional funding to run her business. And she showed me around and she showed me this stock room full of fabric. What they did was they made furniture, and she had this huge stock room full of fabric. And it was all dated fabric, it was no longer in fashion. And I asked her,
Fashion,
what worth? And
wastes.
what she mentioned was in the tens of thousands of pounds. And what she was asking for was probably equivalent to what she had in this room. And that just shows what can happen if you are not careful about how you manage stock, so that you're not, sitting on money basically, that you can no longer use because, you've let it stay there too long. Similar thing in the sort of restaurant business. If you order the food too early, it will go off before you can use it. If you order it too late, then it's not necessary. So it's quite a live issue, and it does definitely impact on the money side of the business. So it goes hand in hand, like you showed in your diagram. The goods go one way, the money
In principle,
way.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but it's fundamental. Yeah.
I'm so happy you use this as an example, because during the presentation I even talked about the different types of wastes. Waste is not just tangible, it can be intangible as well. And having too much inventory in stock holding inventory can be seen as waste, especially if you're not deploying them, or you're not deploying or utilizing them on time. After some time, it's just capital that you have locked up as inventory. And at the end of the day, if it's outdated, then it's lost capital. So this is where, again, capacity planning comes in. You have to be able to strike a balance between having the right amount of inventory that is enough to support your operations, and at the same time, not ensuring that you are not out of stock.
Yeah.
So again, collaboration comes in place. Even if you have a great inventory management system in place, without collaboration, i.e., without being able to tell procurement, for instance, that is, if you work in a warehouse and you notice that your inventory is depleting, you need to be able to have that conversation with procurement to say, I'm running out of inventory or product here. Initiate the procurement cycle. And a procurement says, okay, how much stock cover do you have? Which is what you have in-house? How long can it take you for? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to avoid stockouts. And if you say, well, it's going to take me 75, I have enough inventory to cover me for 75 days. And procurement says, well, in order for me to be able to replenish this, I need 100 days,
There's a gap.
which
Exactly.
means you're going to go 25 days without stock. And that is a problem in itself. And this is why cross-functional collaboration is important. There has to be a constant communication between all the units, and they are sharing information all the time. So inventory needs to know from the onset that the average time it takes procurement to be able to complete a cycle, i.e., to be able to receive my request to procure and deliver it, is an average of 100 days. What that means is once my inventory level gets to 150 days, I start shouting. I initiate that conversation with procurement, or maybe 125 days. There's a science to this, but you just need to ensure that you have enough inventory. We call it there's the optimum holding inventory level. You have to ensure that you have enough inventory to carry over a certain period of time. But the minute you need to replenish that stock, you need to start that conversation with procurement. So this is also showing you why I kept talking about cross-functional collaboration. Procurement needs to purchase, finance needs to get the funds to make the payments. Everything is interrelated. So those discussions have to happen frequently and always. But more than anything else, each function needs to monitor whatever it is they're doing. And that is where I guess tracking is not limited to logistics alone. Tracking is also it also applies to procurement, it also applies to inventory management. So yeah, it's very important to have that synergy across your supply chain to be efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I see a comment in the chat here from Dr. Afolaju. From a technology standpoint, are there critical aspects of the end-to-end process that ERP doesn't cover, or pain points that are not addressed?
So from a technology standpoint, there is nothing an ERP cannot automate for you, because the whole idea of having an ERP is to have a platform where you can coordinate and process information. That's all it is. But at the same time, it also helps you automate your processes. So you are managing information, and all those manual tasks that you used to do in different systems, everything is integrated into one system and can happen at the same time. The biggest challenge businesses face with ERPs is not, can the ERP solve my problem? It is, can I afford it? It's a cost issue more than a solution or a usability issue. It's the cost. And that is where AI has now come to save the day, because anybody that has ever tried to implement an ERP system today knows that it is not for the faint-hearted. Even though there are different packages, but at least the big ones, the SAPs and the Oracles and the Microsofts, by looking at tens of thousands, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the size of your business. But with AI, you can actually, if you can't afford to automate everything end to end with your ERP system, you can now adopt AI and see if you can break your processes into smaller bits and see what can be automated there. So procurement in particular. So AI, Tolu, just answering your question, I'm looking to add value whereby a singular API can be integrated into the existing ERP that can solve a specific problem. Again, based on my experience, you don't even have to go to the big companies. There are local ERP or IT providers that can look at your API and see how it can be integrated into your existing ERP. But there will be questions they will ask, because not all APIs or not all ERPs can actually integrate. So it really depends on what is your existing ERP. If it's one of the big fives, most of the times they can integrate with any external system. However, if it is the more localized one, there might be some challenges with integration, but whoever your solutions provider is, they will be able to tell you what can be done, if it can be integrated or not. But I think everything depends on what your current ERP is and what you're trying to integrate. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any other questions or any other things people would like to share? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands going up or anybody unmuting themselves, so I'll assume that we're all good.
Good.
It just remains for me to thank Sade very much. This has been an amazing and very insightful session. It is one of regular boot camps that we have. So we have these at the end of every month where we take a topic and we do a deep dive into it. So, we look at, like we've done today, the operation side of things and supply chain management. We look at legal, we look at marketing, we look at finance, we look at HR. So please stay tuned. Please, register to attend the next ones. And please tell your friends, tell other people that are running businesses about this. What we are aiming to do is for all of us to work together, to support each other, to, hopefully a lot of you, if you have questions, you will be going to Sade for your answers. So Sade's business will grow. When Sade has questions on something else, she will come to some of you for those. So that's the whole point. We are looking to build our capacity across the continent. So please, I hope that this has been helpful for all of you. If you're not a member yet of Melanin Rich, then please do join. And I look forward to seeing you at the next session. And thank you very much again, Sade. It's been
Thank you,
wonderful.
Ola.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ola. And thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you.
Okay, great. Looking forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.